This is a review of the book Squeeze Play by Cyrus Lakdawala. Um this is a great book, to tell you the truth. I had it for a while, and unfortunately, my fault, I didn't have the time to read it. But okay, we were in the middle of the pandemic, we had a lot of other stuff. Um, Here from the back cover it says, how often have you seen a game like this? The hero has no advantage whatsoever, but somehow manages to keep setting the opponent problems. Their opponent goes slightly astray and suddenly hero has a tiny edge. It's not much, but now that they have a little something to work with, they are in their element. They play accurately and remorselessly, and make life incredibly difficult for their opponent. Suddenly, and almost imperceptibly, their advantage increases. Further tiny inaccuracies follow. The hero turns the screw and bags the full point. Their opponent is left shaking their head, wondering where on earth they went wrong. Now, many of the games of this book are normal size, like 40 moves, and some are longer because Carson is involved. And when Carson is involved, yes, he can squeeze a rock, some water, and something else. However, I found this game 15. Game 15 is between Cyrus Lakdawala, the author, and E. Ilfeld. It was played at the Koltanovsky Memorial in San Francisco in 2000, and it's a London system. That's great, right? Notice I found this description of Cyrus interesting because I didn't know it. Honestly, I didn't know it. So what is that I didn't know? I didn't know that he said, I began my career as not a child prodigy, rated 1795 at age 17. So clearly he's not one of the grandmasters we have today at 12 years old. Through backbreaking work and a lot of prayer to Caissa, I am strength in my mid-20s. Notice he says I am strength, not that he got the title. But the nuisance of needing to earn a living by teaching kept me busy, and I never got around to going after the actual title. Then, when I turned 40, my wife Nancy lectured me on the fact that over the illness was creeping up, and I was ordered to go for it. What a great wife! So I played in my fourth norm tournament at age 40 and got the IM title on my 42nd birthday. Talk about a late bloomer. I needed to win this game to earn my fourth norm. Wow, this was in 2000, okay? 24 years ago. So that's what I like of chess. We can practically ride this time machine and see games of players that were played a long time ago. Look how it starts, however, knight f3. So this is not the usual London, right? With d4, d5, d4, e6, and bishop f4. Okay, so this is also interesting because practically white tried to lure black into something else. Notice I have this set with white and red pieces because like in the 18th century this was the color that they were using for chess sets. And it was interesting because it was also based on royalty. The kings were white and red, and it had a meaning. So I hope that you enjoy it. I honestly have a collection of many different chess sets that are all white and red, and they are beautiful with the right chessboards, obviously. Okay, bishop d6. This is a very interesting move because obviously it immediately asks the question to white, what are you going to do? e3. Very good because he wants to keep a grip on e5, okay? Knight f6 and knight bd2 bishop takes f4. E takes f4. Obviously, there are some comments by the author about this game, which is very interesting. And so, queen d6. Obviously, I know the London, so I'm going a little fast also, because I want to see what he played and why. Just to make you an example, before when he played e3, he could have played bishop g3, which I think it was recommended also by Grandmaster Williams. Okay, so queen d6, g3. Wow, very interesting. He didn't play knight e5. Castle. Bishop d3 and b6. Now this b6 has an exclamation point which says it's a good move. Why do you think black played b6? Because I think this is important. We must always try to understand what the opponent is doing and why. Otherwise we are just wasting time and we are going to land into trouble if we don't know why the opponent played a move. Obviously, black has this bishop that was bad because he had only one square. This bishop in a sense is good, right? Because he has a lot of squares. So what would make sense is that he played b6 with the idea of playing bishop a6, okay? To exchange the bad bishop. Notice this kind of pawn formation happens also in the French defense, and this is still the bad bishop that you want to get rid of compared to the good bishop, okay? So that's probably the reason he played b6. Queen e2, a5, castle. Obviously with queen e2 he avoided that he could play right away bishop a6, and so that's why black played a5, right? Because he wants to exchange that. Okay, so after castle, black played bishop a6. Yeah. Rook ac1, very interesting, and bishop takes d3. C takes d3. Wow, very interesting, very interesting. Would you have played this move, or would you have played queen takes d3? Obviously, c takes d3 makes sense because it takes away two possible outposts for black, okay? So this is the importance of this move that is really fantastic in a sense. But obviously some beginners, they may think, oh no, I have double pawns. Yes, you have double pawns, but sometimes there is a reason for having double pawns. And notice, generally central pawns are more valuable than side pawns, okay? So one must keep into consideration many things, okay? Okay, so c5, as you can see, the problem of double pawns is not real when you have pawn in the center and everybody is fighting for the center. c2, rook c2, knight a6, obviously it's trying to reinforce this, a3 to control the outpost, rook a c8, rook f c1, queen b8. Wow. Obviously here maybe this was better because you want to double the rooks, but okay. Knight e5, very interesting move. Finally white is getting control and occupying his own outpost. Now what would happen if you would play this move? Is this a good move or not? Obviously, I will not give you the answer. I think you should buy the book if you want to find the answer, or do your own analysis, and for sure you will reach the reason why this wasn't a good move. Okay. But in any case, I think it's interesting also that you get active play. So stop the video and try to find why c takes d4 wasn't so good. Okay. Black played queen b7, knight d f3, knight d7. This is obviously a way to get rid of the knight on e5, sometimes also with f6. Rook c3, knight takes e5, queen takes e5, and now you must think, if you were black, what would you play here? There is a diagram. Generally when I offer put a diagram, there is a reason, and here it says now black must worry about f4, f5. Okay, so this is the move black must worry about. How do you solve f4, f5, for example? No? And what would be the right move here? Again, pause the video and try to find it out for yourself. If you don't want to find it out, I can tell you it's a very, very strange move, probably very difficult to find. It's knight b8. Incredible but true. Okay? Because after f5, boom, knight d7 create immediately the problem for white. Okay, so obviously here there is a long variation that I don't want to show you because it's like 10 moves long. Okay, so that's not gonna happen in a video, at least if I don't have it on a chess base, because maybe some people would get tired or bored. However, buy the book and you will see it. That's good. And practically the end of the variation, the author says this will hold the draw. While the move played in the game, g6, it's a mistake. So imagine how a natural move like g6 is a mistake while knight b8 was the right move. Okay? I don't know if the author found knight b8 thanks to an engine, because clearly it's a move that it's a little strange to find. However, it makes sense, knight b8, because this knight is out of the game. Instead, if we make this maneuver, it enters in the game and defends the king side. So that's the reason why, right? So what would you do after g6? Because this is also a very good exercise. You need to think and guess the next move, otherwise you will never learn. In this case, boom, h4, because we want to attack the king side. And we want to attack the king side because this creates a lot of weaknesses. And it created what is called also a hook, something that I can oblige black to answer when I go there, right? h5. Again, not a good move because it creates further weaknesses. Okay. What would you play now as white? The author of this book played queen f6. Wow. C takes d4, which is not so good, it's dubious. And the knight takes d4. Rook takes c3, rook takes c3, knight c5. Okay, this is also a way. Now, the author puts a diagram here, so you need to stop, you need to pause the whatever you were doing and start to think. And it says, exercise planning. Come up with a plan for white to exploit the weak dark squares around the black king. Now, the dark squares are weak because there are all these holes, but the problem is that white doesn't have a bishop that would well generally exploit such weakness. So you need to find another way. How do you create a weakness here? Okay? So the answer is a pawn breakthrough. G3, G4. This is the move to win, okay? Boom! And often some people are afraid to give up material, and in a sense in chess we really discriminate against pawns because we give them away very easily without thinking. While if you have to sacrifice your queen, oh no, let's think 10 times before it. But if it's a pawn, it's okay. H take G4, which is a mistake, and here obviously the author explains why it was a mistake. But how do you continue here? Again, like I said, in chess we really don't care about pawns. H5. Poor pawns. G takes H5. Notice we killed Gary and Harry today. So Queen G5, very good move. King H7. And what do you play now? This is very strange. The author made a move that is on the other side of the board. So it's kind of interesting because he played B4. Instead, obviously, he could have played immediately Queen take H5, okay? But it's okay. I think it's okay. It's interesting this B4. Why it's interesting? Because in chess there is this concept called of two weaknesses. In order to win a game, you need to have generally two weaknesses. Once you fix one side, you go on the other side. Maybe this may not be the case, but is something to consider, okay? So please keep it in mind. A takes B4, A takes B4, Knight A4, and what do you play now? You are white, think about it. One of the features that we all have is to react to a threat defending immediately. Well, in chess is not a good idea. Sometimes you must think in a different way. You must think that you want to attack and win the game, okay? So again, you must give up some material sometimes. So what is the right move now? The right move is F5. Nice move, right? Because this rook is empty. How did black continue? With rook G8. Notice why is wrong to take on C3. Well, dear friends, you do need to do your homework. In the book is explained, but again, I think in this case it's very, very important that you do your homework. If you pause the video, I will tell you why. Because after knight takes C3, there is F6, and this is really a big problem, right? But if you just read the book without thinking, you don't gain much out of it, okay? So it's really important that sometimes you stop and think what you would do, because this will happen in your games, and so you can actually learn from this very prolific author, because Mr. Cyrus really wrote a huge amount of chess books. I think it's similar to Isaac Asimov for science fiction. Okay, so he played rook G8, queen takes H5, king G7, queen G5, king H7. Here, obviously, if this was a real game, you needed to calculate what happens on this move, right? Because if you don't calculate, you don't know if you're going to win or not. So that's kind of important. In the book, it's given the line that shows how white would win. But again, try to think for yourself, okay? Try to think for yourself, because it's kind of very important. Okay, queen H4, rook G7, sorry, not rook G7, king G7, and now white play a very, very interesting move, rook C6. he practically tries to eliminate this defense. Okay, knight b2, knight takes e6, f takes e6, and rook takes e6, and the game is over. Black is mated in 6 at most. The moral one takes away from this game. So the moral one should take away from this game is listen to your fortune cookie for the offer. No, I don't think this is the case. I think, yeah, we needed to calculate. This was a good calculation fit from white. And we can see how much he calculated when he left the rook c3 and prise. So he did a lot of calculation during the game. It would be interesting to know what was the time control in that time. As always, you can see from one of the books of Lakdawala, you get exercise planning and other stuff. So if you are interested in this quiz play, it's a good book to have. Thank you very much.